Secrets in the Desert. In the vast emptiness of China's western deserts, an uncanny spectacle emerges. Across the seemingly endless sands of Xinjiang's Taklamakan Desert, enormous structures lie in formation, their scale so vast that from the air, they resemble fleets of aircraft carriers and destroyers frozen in a frozen tableau. Shadows stretch across the barren plains, accentuating the illusion of motionless power. Yet these are no ordinary constructions. They are meticulously designed mock-ups, full-scale replicas of American naval vessels, placed hundreds of miles from the nearest ocean. Their existence in a land of extremes raises questions. Why build ships where water has never touched? The Taklamakan Desert, known historically as the Sea of Death, has always been a land of extremes and danger. For centuries, travelers on the Silk Road avoided its vast dunes, fearful of sudden sandstorms that could swallow caravans whole. Temperatures swing from scorching heat by day to bitter cold by night, and its sheer isolation makes it almost inaccessible. Yet these very conditions provide the perfect cover for a secretive and unprecedented form of military experimentation. Here, in one of the harshest landscapes on Earth, China has turned emptiness into opportunity, creating a testing ground where naval strategy can be simulated far from prying eyes. The strategic significance of aircraft carriers has long been unquestioned. These floating fortresses project power, maintain global influence, and serve as air bases in international waters. They are heavily defended, shielded by destroyers, cruisers, submarines, and sophisticated missile systems. For China, these carriers represented both a challenge and a threat, particularly regarding Taiwan and the contested waters of the South China Sea. The ability to neutralize such assets would not only shift military calculations, but could redefine power dynamics in the Indo-Pacific region. China's answer came in the form of the Dongfeng series of ballistic missiles, particularly the Dongfeng 21D, often called the carrier killer. Engineered to strike moving naval targets from inland launchers, the DF-21D combines range, speed, and precision. Its successor, the DF-26, expanded that range even further, threatening U.S. bases across the Pacific. These weapons are not merely technological achievements, they are strategic statements, signaling China's intent to challenge the traditional dominance of U.S. naval power. Testing such weapons presents unique challenges. Aircraft carriers are not static. They maneuver constantly, protected by complex networks of radar, electronic countermeasures, and multi-layered defenses. To simulate real conditions, China created desert replicas that mirror the dimensions and configurations of Nimitz-class and Ford-class carriers, as well as Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. Some replicas are mounted on rails to mimic movement. Others are arranged in tactical formations. Each missile strike leaves measurable impact craters, providing engineers with crucial data on accuracy, destructive potential, and target vulnerability. The desert thus serves as a laboratory for experimentation and refinement. These tests also carry a psychological dimension. The mere presence of full-scale replicas, combined with visible missile impacts, sends a message of capability and intent. Washington and its allies are forced to consider the possibility, however theoretical, that U.S. carriers could be threatened. In modern military strategy, perception can be as significant as reality. The desert carriers become instruments of both preparation and deterrence, reshaping calculations far beyond the sands of Xinjiang. The implications extend directly to Taiwan. In any potential conflict scenario, U.S. carriers would provide critical air and sea support. The ability to target these assets, even theoretically, could dramatically shift the strategic balance. The desert replicas allow Chinese forces to rehearse, study, and refine tactics that might one day be employed in high-stakes contingencies. Every strike, every measured impact, adds to a growing body of knowledge about how to counter the most formidable naval assets on Earth. Beyond Taiwan, the South China Sea represents a vital corridor for global trade, carrying nearly a third of all maritime shipping. China's territorial claims, under the 9-dash line, are contested by international law, prompting regular freedom of navigation operations by U.S. and allied forces. By practicing strikes on carrier-like targets, China demonstrates not only capability, but intent, signaling that even dominant naval forces may face vulnerability in contested waters. Desert-based testing is not a perfect simulation. At sea, carriers maneuver unpredictably and operate under sophisticated defensive systems designed to intercept threats. No nation has conclusively proven the ability to destroy a modern U.S. carrier in combat. Yet the data gathered and the psychological message sent are invaluable. The desert carriers are rehearsal tools, training platforms, and symbols of strategic resolve. Mastering the modern battlefield. The desert replicas highlight China's broader strategic evolution. Once a continental power focused on border security, China now projects influence across the oceans. Its domestic carrier fleet, the Liaoning, Shandong, and the Fujian with electromagnetic catapults, underscores this ambition. Artificial islands, military bases in the South China Sea, and long-range missile deployment all reflect a maritime strategy emerging from years of deliberate planning. The desert carriers are part of this transformation, bridging land-based experimentation with oceanic projection of power. Regional actors are responding. Japan, concerned about Chinese activity near the Senkaku Islands, has expanded defense budgets and invested in long-range strike capabilities. Australia, through the AUKUS alliance, is developing nuclear-powered submarines. The Philippines has granted U.S. forces greater access to its bases. Each action reflects the strategic ripple effects of China's desert missile testing, reshaping the balance of power across the Indo-Pacific. For Taiwan, the psychological implications are profound. The theoretical vulnerability of U.S. carriers forces a reconsideration of deterrence and alliance reliance. Even stationary, artificial desert carriers influence real-world decision-making. Modern warfare increasingly relies on perception, precision, and technology as much as sheer force. The desert carriers serve as a modern incarnation of this principle, allowing for data-driven refinement of strategy without the risks inherent to live maritime exercises. The implications of these preparations extend to every nation with stakes in Asia-Pacific security. Japan's defense posture has grown more assertive in response to Chinese activity. Its acquisition of advanced missile systems, investment in radar networks, and development of mobile coastal defenses are all influenced by the perceived threat of Chinese missile capabilities. Australia's nuclear-powered submarines under the AUKUS agreement aim to counterbalance China's growing reach. Even Southeast Asian nations, including the Philippines and Vietnam, adjust military planning, sometimes enhancing cooperation with the United States, sometimes pursuing indigenous deterrence. The desert carriers also underscore China's commitment to integrating technology and strategy. Modern warfare is increasingly defined not by the size of fleets alone, but by the integration of intelligence, precision weaponry, and psychological operations. Landlocked replicas allow testing in a controlled setting, removing variables such as weather, international scrutiny, and the unpredictability of real fleets. They represent a fusion of engineering, strategy, and foresight, a laboratory where military innovation and national ambition intersect. Taiwan, the flashpoint of potential conflict, is acutely aware of the strategic implications. In a crisis scenario, U.S. carriers would be expected to provide rapid air and naval support. The possibility that these carriers could be neutralized, even theoretically, reshapes deterrence calculations. The desert simulations provide China with the opportunity to refine approaches, predict operational challenges, and rehearse outcomes. In high-stakes conflicts, preparation often dictates advantage, and in this respect, the Taklamakan becomes an arena of silent, meticulous rehearsal. Even outside Asia, global military thinking is adjusting. Nations traditionally reliant on U.S. naval protection must consider alternative strategies. The notion that a major power's most formidable assets may be challenged from inland testing sites alters assumptions about force projection, alliances, and deterrence. Desert-based missile experiments, though geographically isolated, have consequences that ripple across continents. The evolution of China's domestic carrier fleet mirrors this land-based preparation. The Liaoning and Shandong serve as training and operational platforms, while the advanced Fujian, equipped with electromagnetic catapults, signals a technological leap. Together with artificial islands in the South China Sea and sophisticated missile programs, these assets demonstrate an integrated approach to maritime power. Desert replicas, though stationary, are a conceptual extension of this strategy, enabling land-based rehearsal for sea-based dominance. A silent message to the world. The psychological aspect of these tests cannot be overstated. They send a clear, calculated message to the United States, its allies, and regional actors. Even the most formidable forces are not untouchable. In a world where perception often shapes action as much as capability, the desert carriers embody strategic signaling. They convey ambition, innovation, and a willingness to challenge traditional hierarchies of power. Critics argue that these exercises cannot replicate the complexities of actual naval combat. Carriers at sea maneuver unpredictably and operate under extensive defensive networks. The environment, weather conditions, and human factors all add unpredictability. Yet the desert provides consistency and repeatability, allowing engineers and strategists to gather precise data, refine tactics, and build confidence in operational plans. The Taklamakan's harsh environment offers more than secrecy. It provides a stark metaphor for the challenges of modern warfare. It is unyielding, relentless, and unforgiving, much like the evolving global strategic landscape. China's desert carriers transform inhospitable sand into a proving ground where ambition, technology, and strategy converge, where the future of maritime conflict is rehearsed in detail, far from prying eyes. Globally, these developments are altering military doctrines. U.S. naval planning now integrates considerations of missile vulnerability, rapid response, and technological countermeasures. Advanced missile defenses, hypersonic interceptors, unmanned platforms, and electronic warfare systems are all being developed to maintain the relevance of aircraft carriers. Every technological advance in Beijing's arsenal prompts a corresponding adjustment in Washington, Tokyo, Canberra, and beyond. The interplay of innovation, countermeasure, and strategy defines modern military competition. Ultimately, the desert carriers are paradoxes, massive yet immobile, silent yet influential, artificial yet pivotal. They demonstrate the fusion of imagination, engineering, and strategic foresight. They show that modern warfare is not solely about ships and guns, but also about intelligence, rehearsal, and perception. The barren sands of the Taklamakan have become a crucible where strategy is tested, lessons are learned, and the echoes of future conflict are rehearsed in silence. From space, these outlines tell a story of ambition and foresight. Ships that will never sail are already reshaping global thinking, altering policy, and influencing strategic decisions. The oceans, once uncontested, may no longer offer security without careful consideration of new threats. China's desert carriers, hidden in plain sight, are both experiment and message, rehearsal and warning, embodying a world in which power is measured not just by firepower, but by preparation, innovation, and strategic imagination. In the shifting sands, the future of naval warfare is quietly being written. The Taklamakan Desert, vast and silent, serves as a proving ground for the next generation of military power. Here, steel and sand converge to explore the limits of possibility, and the echoes of these desert fleets ripple across continents and oceans alike. The silent ships of Xinjiang may never sail, but their influence is already global, and their story is a reminder that in modern conflict, imagination, foresight, and meticulous preparation are as formidable as any armada.